To understand the new material in this video tutorial, you should already have studied these concepts: orientation to the keyboard, intervals, triads and chords, introduction to scales, and key signatures. If any of this material seems unfamiliar, you should revisit these earlier video tutorials. Specific information for cadences can be found in the Class Piano Resources book, Level Preparatory, on page 45. In musical study, the term cadence has several meanings, but for the purpose of this tutorial, it will specifically refer to a short progression of chords. These chord progressions, or cadences, are then used to harmonize melodies and serve as the basis for simple improvisation. Here's an example of a cadence in the key of C major. Here's an example of cadence chords being used to harmonize a melody. Here's an example of cadence chords in an improvisation. In this instance, I'm just spontaneously making up a simple melody as I go. In the video tutorial Triads and Chords, you learned that triads can be constructed on any scale degree. For example, the 1 triad, the 4 triad, the 5 triad. The 5 triad is also called the dominant triad. The individual notes of a triad are called the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. The 5 triad can have an extra note added on top that is a 7th above the root. This new chord is called a 7th chord, and this is specifically the 5/7 chord, also called the dominant 7th chord. 7th chords have 4 notes. Triads have only 3 notes. Any triad can have a 7th added to become a 7th chord. For example, 1/7, 4/7, and 5/7. But for these simple cadence chord progressions, only the 5 chord will be played as a 7th chord. The chords and the cadences that you will be required to play are designated by the scale degrees on which they are constructed. For example, 1, 4, and 5. Traditionally in classical music, Roman numerals are used, and in C major the root position triads look like this. In the cadences that you will play for this course, the notes in the 4 chord and the 5/7 chord will be rearranged to create voicings that are easier to play. The 4 chord voicing looks like this, where the top note is played down an octave. The 5/7 chord has an extra note on top that is the interval of a 7th above the root. That's why it's called a 7th chord. The voicing in the cadence for the 5/7 chord looks like this. The F and B are rearranged and the note D is omitted. It's still the same chord, just rearranged. In this tutorial, here is a review of the new concepts that were covered. Cadence is a short progression of chords. The 5 triad is called the dominant triad. The individual notes in a triad are the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. 7th chords have an extra note that is the interval of a 7th above the root of the triad. The 5/7 chord is called the dominant 7th chord. chords in cadences are referred to by Roman numerals, for example, 1, 4, 5, 7. The notes in the 4 and 5, 7 chords are rearranged to make voicings that are easier to play.